So, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Tita Oktavia with name 22220026. So, I'm here today for do a task for introduction and interpreting. So, the subject is the code ethics for interpreters. There are 8 code ethics for interpreters. Number 1 is accuracy and fidelity. Number 2 is confidentiality. Number 3 is impartiality. Number 4, respect for reason. Number 5, maintaining role boundaries. Number 6, accountability. Number 7, professionalism. And number 8, continued competence. So let's start. So number 1 is accuracy and fidelity. What is accuracy and fidelity? That means that the interpreters must do their best when they interpret all of the message without addition, distortion, omission, and embellishment of the meaning. So there are 7 principles of ethic, accuracy, and fidelity. Number 1 is Randall's, or all utterance and written communication faithfully. Number 2 is advises all parties that everything said in the encounter will be interpreted. Number 3 is retain English mix into the other language, as well as culturally bound terms which have no direct equivalent in English. Number 4 is the interpreters ask for repetition, repassing, or explanation. Number 5 is ensures that the meaning of gesture, body language, and tone of voice is not lost. Number 6 is interpret, use a mode of interpreting appropriate for the setting. And the last one is perform summary interpretation only with the knowledge and consent of all parties. So the next is we have confidentiality. Confidentiality is that all of the interpreters not disclose the information and when he's doing interpretation. So the principle of confidentiality is three. Number 1 is advises all parties that she or he will respect the confidentiality of the encounter, except when required by law. And number 2 is does not disclose information spoken, seen, or written in outside unless required by law. And number 3 is the interpreter may collaboration work with other professional interpreter. Number 3 is impartiality. Impartiality is that the interpreters should not take sides when doing the interpreter and should not express personal interest and not to give advice to all the parties. And the principle of impartiality 6, they are remains impartial. And number 2 is interpreter declines to interpret when she owing their personal or vested interest in outcome. Number 3 is decline to interpret when they have personal issues. And number 4 is disclose to all parties in the encounter any personal or other relationship. Number 5 is the interpreter informs the interpreter service agency when they have a personal interest. And the last is the interpret declines when he have personal issues that maybe the personal issues can potential to conflict. And number 4 we have a reason for respect, that the interpreters must be respect all of the parties. They are 3 principle. Number 1 is demonstrate respect. And number 2 is promotes autonomy and personal choice. And number 3 is promotes direct communication. And the number 5, we have a maintaining role boundaries, that the interpreters stay with his prescribed role and refrain from personal involvement. They are an A principle, enable communication between parties, doesn't advocate, doesn't enter into the discussion and give advice, and doesn't filter communication, mediate or speak on behalf, avoid unnecessary contact with the parties, and doesn't perform service other than interpretation, and utilizes the least mode of interpreting, and protect their own privacy and safety. So in the number 6, we have accountability. Accountability is that the interpreters must responsibility to all the parties and responsibility to her work and to her own personal. There are 7 principle. Number 1 is identifies and correct interpretation error. Number 2 is decline assignment that require knowledge beside the interpreting. Number 3 is inform the parties immediately and request direction. That the interpreter should required to do the request from the parties. Number 4 is maintains their role and obligation. And number 6 is conduct their complements with legislative requirement, maintain transparency, and brings to the attention of the appropriate person and condition, and complements with any standard or of practice. 7, we have professionalism, that the interpreters must be act very professional and ethical manner. Number 1 is behaves in a manner consistent with the highest professional standard, perform their duties as unobtrusively, completes the assignment they accept, arrives on time, and remains at the appointed location, dresses inappropriately, and doesn't conduct personal business when when interpreting, and creates a working environment conducive. And for the last, we have continue competence, that the interpreters must be learn and to develop their knowledge both in languages, in personal, in individuals, in attitude, and in the service, how to treat the client. So there are 5 principles: obtain accreditation or certification, maintain and expand skill and knowledge, 6 evaluative feedback, and prepare to demonstrate their certification, and maintain membership in appropriate professional associative. So I think that's all for me. I'm sorry if there's any of error words. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.